Hello, friends. I hope this finds you well. And I want to talk about today what it can look like when a human or an animal feels misunderstood, what that can look like. This really conversation spurred from a reading I did last night for a rescue horse who essentially is on her last line, if you will. She essentially had some kind of incident and is, the rescue is contemplating, can she live and be safe with people or not? And so after chatting and doing a healing on her last night and just thinking about what this looks like in my own horses and in myself when I felt misunderstood, and I just felt like it could be a really helpful thing for all of us to have a little bit more of an understanding around. So, when animals feel misunderstood, it can show up in a lot of different ways, right? So, for my own personal horse, my first horse, Jazz, when she came to me, she definitely felt misunderstood. And she had lived a life primarily of people not really trying to get to understand or get to know her, but really from a standpoint of what can you do for me? And this is how I want it. And if you can't do it, then it's because there's something wrong with you, not because there's something wrong with our communication or like just the fact of what you want to do with your life versus what I want to be doing with horses or animals in my life. And that for her, the way that it manifested, at least when I got her, was really from being shut down. So she was just very much on autopilot. She had learned to just do what was asked, and there wasn't a lot of emotion, and she just kind of was a little bit of a robot, and just there wasn't a lot of life in her, if you will. Whereas this horse I connected in with last night, the way that she manifested being misunderstood was through violence, if you will. It was through a much more like fight where for Jazz it was much more freeze. And so but both are the same, right? Both are, these horses just aren't feeling, and animals in general, right? So if we take this to dogs or cats or bunnies or whatever, you can have an animal that's really shut down, that feels misunderstood, or that is just operating at a whatever is being asked kind of place to just be alive and not be beaten or like forced to do things that they don't want to do. And some are going to shut down, some are going to be super complacent, and some are going to fight back, or some are going to run away, right? Fight, flight, freeze. Like that's literally what all those things are mean. And when we feel misunderstood, especially long enough, it's going to result in one of those things. So for Jazz, it was very much a freeze situation and then just operate at a baseline without much emotion or putting anything into it, because she'd kind of just shut down the fact that she was going to be understood and seen and heard and have a voice. And so she just put her voice away. Whereas this other horse was demanding to have a voice, had felt like she had one at some point, and then in this moment when she felt really uncomfortable and was trying to have a voice and wasn't being heard, it escalated. And so I'm not saying every animal who's shut down or every animal who's violent is really a great animal underneath it and is just misunderstood. Likely that is the case. However, there can be other things at play as well. And so for animals, it's asking ourselves, are we actually taking the time to get to understand who this animal is? Are we taking the time to understand what this animal can do physically, emotionally, all the things, and what they actually want to do, right? Just because they can ride or jump or whatever doesn't mean that they actually want to. And so are we taking the time to understand the animal we have in front of us and what they want and what feels good to them? And are we giving them a voice in order to have a conversation back with us? So just because maybe they do want to ride or jump or trail ride doesn't mean that all things go. It may be that they want to do it in a specific way. There's a reading I did a while ago for a family who was contemplating purchasing this pony for their daughter, who was really good at jumping and eventing and things. And this pony, I loved having this conversation because she was like, yeah, I want a partner and I have we have the potential to do so much, and it needs to be done in this way. If you pull on my mouth, we are not going to get along. So just because this horse wants to do eventing and jumping and things doesn't mean all the things are okay within that realm, right? She wants to do it in a specific certain way. So when we have our animals, it's giving them the space to have a voice. And then it's giving ourselves the space to actually hear and understand what they're trying to tell us, and taking the time to understand the way that they're communicating back to you. Because not every horse is always going to communicate in the same way, or every dog's going to communicate in the same way. There's going to be things that are similar. However, they're going to have different preferences, right? Some might put their ears back. Some might stomp. Some might just like shut down and kind of really go inward. Some might go forward and come after you or kick at you or whatever. And so it's learning how your animal in front of you is communicating, and then asking yourself, is this occurring because we're having a misunderstanding and I missed something, or you missed something from me? And how can we level set this? So that's what it can look like from an animal perspective. And I use horses just because they've been really prevalent in my world lately. And so it's an easy example, especially with this rescue that I did a reading on last night. Now, for humans, when we feel misunderstood, the way that it can show up a lot of times is going to have a base in our not self theme. So if you look at your human design chart, it's going to say not self theme. And again, our not self theme are the things that say we're out of alignment, we're out of design. Take a step back and see where we're pushing, where we're forcing, where we likely said yes to something that is actually a no. So if we go through the types, and yes, we have all 5 types within us, and so we can experience all of these not self themes. However, the one that you are, so if whatever your energy type is going to be your most dominant, and therefore that not self theme is likely going to have a bigger say and prevalence in your life when you're feeling misunderstood. And of course, we can shut down and stuff too. However, we're going to feel these things in the moment as well. So if you're a manifester, you're going to feel anger, irritation, you're going to feel rebellious, and you're going to feel passivity and accommodation. Whether you feel those only yourself or you start to project them onto others is very going to be individual to you or to your kids or to your partner. However, those are going to be the things that are going to be really prevalent in your life. If you're a generator, your not self theme is frustration, feeling uninspired, feeling blah about life, feeling dull, and feeling like you have a frustration or pent up energy. Again, you can feel these all internally and not show any of them to the outside world, or you can be sharing them and showing them to the outside world and not necessarily always understanding and feeling that you're feeling them so intensely. And I will say, none of these are meant to be normal in the sense that you're not meant to feel them all the time. They are normal for us to feel from time to time. However, the goal of a not self theme is for you to catch it and understand and be aware of it in the moment so you can course correct in the moment. And you're not living in your not self theme for weeks, months, years, and feeling and thinking, well, this is just how it's supposed to be or how it's going to be until. Because it's not meant to be your normal. If you're a manifesting generator, both of these things are going to be true for you. So anger and everything that goes with anger, frustration and everything that goes with frustration, because you're a mixture of a manifestor and a generator. And as a manifesting generator, you can be more of a manifestor or more of a generator. And so if you know if you're more of a manifestor or more of a generator, then likely whichever one you're more of, you'll feel that not self theme more than the other. If you're a projector like me, our not self theme is bitterness. And bitterness is rarely felt just by us. Like we feel it, but we feel it for other people. We don't necessarily feel it about ourselves, right? So manifestors, generators, and MGs can feel frustrated or angry with themselves, but rarely, if ever, does a projector feel bitter with themselves. They're bitter at other people. And so this is where it can also show up as resentment. It can show up as not understanding or being upset that somebody doesn't recognize that you're right, or that they don't see that they're wrong, or that they're not owning up to that fact that they're wrong, or being, upset or complaining that people keep getting it wrong, or that like they're doing it the wrong way. Like, why can't they see they're doing it the wrong way? They're doing things like, why can't they just do it the right way? Like, why can't they do it my way? Why can't they just see that I'm right? And so it's a lot of projected onto other people about how they are doing things wrong. Or if you're ever feeling like, well, they should know, that's likely you're not self-theme as a projector as well. So ours is very much directed to other people and less directed at ourselves. And then reflectors, their not self-theme is disappointment. And disappointment can also look like low levels of depression, feeling really like deflated, right? So deflated at a situation, deflated at a person, at an environment. It's also can feel, the disappointment can also show up as pulling away from your tribe, from your community, from your family, and wanting to be by yourself and not be amongst others for long periods of time, not just like for a day, but for long periods of time. So anytime you're feeling misunderstood, it's likely going to show up prevalently in these ways. And it's because likely we're not living in alignment to who we are, that we're not living our authenticity because XYZ. We can blame it on anybody or anything, but we didn't take the responsibility to step into who we are meant to be and who we're here to be and do. And we allowed the outside world to tell us and dictate how we actually are living our lives. So hopefully this is helpful in you understanding either your animals, other animals, client animals, whatever, as well as yourself, and how misunderstanding can really show up in our lives, whether from an animal perspective or a human perspective. And you can start to see it in other people as well. And if you're interested in having a session with your own animals to get to understand them better, to set that ground work, foundation work, I invite you to take a look at the sessions that I do offer. If you have a new animal or you're just going through a rough patch, I highly recommend the relationship one, because it brings both of you together into a reading and really does a healing on the two of you and the relationship of both of you and not just one of you. So it gets to really energetically level set both of you and the things together, which can be massive. And if you, for yourself, are like, I want to understand myself, I want to be understood, I want to understand who I am, I want to step into that and that understanding, I invite you to look at the human design offerings that I have through packages and through a one-on-one container. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys all soon.